Hello everyone, Devorah Esther here. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Kosher 2.0. Just want to thank Hashem for waking me up and for giving me a tremendous dose of grace and mercy in everything that He gives me today and everything that He will do for us today. I'm outside today, and I know many of you know I live next to a forest, and the birds have just been going really crazy, singing their song. So if you hear it, you're not in the jungle, you're just in my backyard. So with that, I want to thank everyone who reached out to me on Friday about how much you love the oils. But I did warn you, I said that if you let me run away with it, I will run away with it. And because you encouraged me, I'm going to run away with it just a little bit further to include three of really, it's hard to say what is my favorite. And I said this Friday, it's like choosing between your children. It's very hard. But these were three that I really had hoped I could find time to fit into the first broadcast. But, I just didn't want to let it spill into like a half hour of just a broadcast. So I wanted to include these three, which are very crucial. And I'm just so glad when you hear what they can do. You'll understand why they've become part of my little oil family. And I'm very partial to these. But I want to bring them to your attention because there's some that you've maybe never heard of, or maybe have heard of and you just didn't know what the hype was about. So I want to bring those to you today. And the first one is called Emu Oil. Now, Emu oil is the same as the bird. It's some people take it orally. I've never tried it orally. I've always tried it topically, and I've had great success with it. And in fact, my husband actually introduced it to me. A few years ago, I had a bout with the shingles back when I was going through my own illness. And if anybody's gone to the rodeo with shingles, it's not pleasant. It's very painful, and it's very long. It's very difficult to get the upper hand on shingles. Of course, being the bad patient that I am, decided to do everything naturally. So, I had to take a regimen, which was quite effective, to be quite honest with you, but it does take some time. And I had gotten to a point where I was like at a stalemate. I wasn't quite getting better, but I wasn't getting worse. And once I introduced the Emu oil, along with like a mixture of some other things that I had in there, it really allowed me to get the upper hand. And with great reason, when I began to research what Emu oil does, it was very good. And of course, I needed this in my regimen. So it's a great anti-inflammatory. And a lot of people use it for like sore muscles and I think like some parents have said that they use it for children who are going through growing pains. Now, my children are well past that age, so I'm sorry, I can't report on whether that's true or not. But if you do try it on children that you find are having growing pains, let me know how that works out for you, because I'm very convinced by Emu oil and its claims, just for the simple fact of my own bout with the shingles, and it did kind of relieve the pain as well too. So I kind of do tend to believe that claim. But people have used it for cuts, and some people have mentioned that they used it post-op for surgical wounds to kind of heal, the scarring. And thankfully, Baruch Hashem, I've not had to use it for that, But people have reported using it for that, and also for the burns that they receive from radiation therapy. A lot of people use it for diaper rash. I think that it is gentle enough. I put it on my face. It's gentle enough to, I would think for a baby. But of course, with all things, with a baby, you want to be careful with what you're putting on them. But like I said, I put it on for my face. And that brings me to the other point, which is it's great for acne. Dandruff and psoriasis, like I mentioned, I use it for shingles. And of course, eczema would be another great, if you have any of those like dermatitis things or anything, this would probably be a great thing to try. It is gentle enough. I personally have not received any negative reaction to it, and it's just been great. And the nice thing about Emu, especially now in the summertime, is that it's great for sunburn. So it's not only, the anti-inflammatory, like we said, it has that pain relieving property. So if you've got a sunburn, it's really good. And a nice thing about Emu oil is that it doesn't grow bacterial organisms. So that's really nice to see in an oil that'll just last you forever and has so many uses. But I really love Emu oil. And the next one is called lemongrass. Now, that's not the same as lemon extract or lemon balm. It's lemongrass. And quite honestly, it has nothing to do with a lemon. But it smells kind of, it's got like a cross between it's a citrusy lemon and like a hint of citronella. It's not awful. It's actually really pleasant. It's a very pleasant smell. And lemongrass is actually used from way back. And actually, you know, in Malaysia, the ancient warriors there used to do like a mixture of it into a balm, and they would apply it all over their body and say, you know, prayers. And their belief was that between the mixture and the prayers, that it would save them from the sword actually penetrating into their body. You know, I'm not quite sure how that worked out for them, but, you know, if you're going into battle in your everyday life and you find yourself a little overwhelmed, you may want to take lemongrass with you, as it's a great antidepressant. And not that your day should make you depressed, but if you're feeling a little on the, you know, ho-hum side, this is a great uplifting scent, and it does. It's very, it gives you a kind of nice uplifted feeling when you're smelling it. It is also an antimicrobial, an antiseptic. It's an antibacterial, it's a fungicide, and insects don't like it as well. So remember, we were talking Friday about putting neem oil as a natural bug repellent. This would, for sure, you'd want to mix that in with here, and at least it's a little bit more pleasant smelling. And like I said, growing up, my grandmother, I never used off. We always used like these little oil mixtures. So like I said, it had that citronella kind of component in it, so you can kind of see why they wouldn't like it. And it's just, you know, I found it to be much more effective, much more pleasant without all the pesticides and chemicals that you can kind of get with some of those things. So, you know, lemongrass is really good, not just for the insects. I personally have also taken it orally, and I've taken it two ways. Like, they sell it, the leaves, that you can make a tea out of it, which is really great, and I highly recommend it. Some people do it, you know, cold. They ice it over. And I've tried it that way. It is good. It's not bad, especially now in the summertime. I just personally like teas. I'm not, you know, and I drink them even in the warm months. So I like it as a lemongrass tea. And also, if you're going through, you know, if you're going through an illness of the digestive orders, this would be great in a soup, in a chicken soup. You know, we mentioned before about all the antimicrobial and things like this, but this is actually really good for things like H. pylori. And if you're going through any digestive issues, this is really great to kind of clean up that intestinal tract, which a lot of people have issues with. So this is really, really good. You know, the lemongrass, the actual lemongrass that you put into the chicken soup, you know, we find it here. I could find it either in the nature store, which is generally where I get it from. But if you're in like an area like New York City that has like a lot of these Asian markets, they also use lemongrass a lot. So you may be able to pick it up in one of those markets. You know, we're fortunate here to have, you know, we have a few stores to choose from, so we're not exactly limited to one. And that's really great because not every nature store carries everything. So you want to make sure that you are looking for good quality lemongrass, either through the oil, through the tea, or through the actual blade of grass that you can dunk into your soup. But it's really good. I really, really love it. And it's one of those things that I have on hand in any form, whether the essential oil, the tea, and the blade of grass, you know, that depends on if I'm, you know, going to make a soup. But really, really good for digestive disorders. I highly recommend it. I just highly recommend it. And, you know, the last one, a lot of people have never heard of. They've never even heard of it. And if you have, like, kudos to you, because it's a very unknown oil. And I'm really surprised. I mean, this thing almost beats tea tree out, you know, hands down. It's called Ravensara. And Ravensara has been duped as a cure-all by many people. And it's also, it's an anti-allergenic, and it's good for like colds and respiratories, you know, the aroma of it. And it's an antibacterial, antimicrobial, again, an antidepressant, antiviral, and disinfectant. And this thing is, I mean, I've used it on my husband, you know, when he got sick. he had a cold, and sometimes at night it's very hard to sleep. And even if you have allergies, I would imagine, the same thing. And I douse like one of those cotton rounds that you put your facial toner on, and I let it, kind of smell. I told him to inhale deeply. And, it was one of those things, Ravensara, if I could describe the scent, it's like, I'm not sure when I first opened it, I wasn't sure that I hated it. I wasn't sure if I loved it. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. I can't describe it. It wasn't good or bad, if that makes sense to you. But I tell you what it did do. Not only did my husband fall asleep, but I was out like a light. I really was out like a light. It does have like a very calming property. And it's funny because when I researched Ravensara, years ago, I recall coming across a photo of a squirrel who had fallen asleep on a Ravensara tree. I mean, he was just knocked out. I mean, it was just so cute. The picture was just so amazing. But Ravensara is really good. And I'll be quite honest with you, it's good for also the shingles virus. If you have eczema, dermatitis, and things like that, it's very good. And it also helps to reduce excess phlegm. And, some people have said that they've used it for measles and mumps and chicken pox and the flu. Of course, I've not tried it for that, but, just given what I know it can do, I think it would work well. If you're going through like a dermatitis or something like that, it'd probably be good to mix the three of these things together. And put them on like a little ointment, and between the healing properties of all of them and the Emu Oil just having its own moisturization properties on top of everything else that it does, it'd be a great blend to add in for like any kind of skin conditions. I wouldn't treat a diaper rash with the combo of the three. I wouldn't treat a diaper rash with that. I'd be very careful with that, and I wouldn't put things like the Emu Oil I would put on my face. The other two I'm not sure that I would put on, because there is a very intense tingling sensation that would probably be very uncomfortable. So they would be good for the rest of the body. I don't know that they would be good for your face or anything like that. However, the Emu Oil is pretty good for the face. And a lot of people do use it as part of their beauty regimen as well too. But so these are three oils that I want to bring to you that you may not have heard of, and you may not always need, but you will be happy that you have them if you do need them. But, I want to just give you, it's a little something else that's out there. There's, like I said before on Friday, there's always the tea tree, which is always very popular. And I love tea tree and have tea tree, but there's other things that in my opinion, are probably a little bit more effective. And when you're dealing with things like, shingles and eczema and stuff like that, you kind of, if you've gone through it, you really want to get the upper hand on it as soon as possible, because these things, they're very painful and sometimes can get out of control. So, of course, with everything, not only are these good topically, but when you're dealing with shingles and eczema, you have to make sure that you have the nutritional component behind it. Because it's an inside-outside thing. These things are coming in from the inside because of something that's going on the inside. So you want to make sure that you've got, if you're going through a bout of any of this, that you're cleaning out the diet and you're making sure that the nutritional component of both the vitamins and the minerals and the omegas must be there for skin health. So it's very important to have those in. So, with that, I'll tell you, like I always tell you, this is just my opinion from my corner of the world. And it's just information that I'm giving to you about products you may not know, and they're not intended to replace your doctor's advice or to, tell you this is better than that. It's just an alternative. And at the end of the day, you have to decide what's best for you and your family. But as always, I just want to keep bringing you a well-balanced, forum of information here. So thank you for everyone who's reached out to me and given me, great feedback on some of the broadcasts. And if you have any ideas about things you want to learn more about, please, give me a holler. I'll be happy to look into that for you. But as always, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Kosher 2.0.